Namaskar. Welcome to the part number 3 of the lesson number 8. Explanations on the step 3 in the method of analysis. That is, analyzing the Starlord and Starlord of the Starlord. Studying the effect planet, that is, Starlord and Starlord of the Starlord. First, studying the self-signification of the Starlord, that is second level planet. Study the self-signification of the Starlord planet as followed for the first planet under step 1. How we studied the self-signification of the first level planet under step number 1, the same thing we can follow to study the self-signification of the Starlord. By that way, we can find if the Starlord planet is favorable or unfavorable or mixed for the event. Once we studied the self-signification of the Starlord planet, we have to do the combined study of planet and Starlord. In the first step, we studied the planet self-signification. In the next step, we have studied the Starlord's significations. Now we have to do the combined study, planet and Starlord. Please follow the rules discussed under the combined level study. You can see the part 1 of the lesson 8. We had a discussion on the rules for the combined level study. You please refer to that. Find if the planet and Starlord are forming favorable house grouping or unfavorable house grouping. If the Starlord can further increase or decrease the favorable or unfavorable strength of the planet has to be studied. Suppose when we are studying planet and Starlord combinedly, planet signification is further supported by the Starlord. It means favorable houses of the planet is increased by the Starlord or decreased by the Starlord by the unfavorable houses. That way, this Starlord can further increase or decrease the favorable or unfavorable strength of the planet. For example, you can see in the examples I have given, you take a Mars planet. Mars planet self-signification as per the step number 1. Step number 1, if you take planet is 7th Lord, 12th Lord, 12th occupant and 10. It is a mixed significator. But it is a primary house for the 7th house and also 12th house. As I said, if it is a cuspal lord for the primary house or cuspal lord for the 12th house, we have to give more attention in self-signification and also level-to-level study. Because this house is going to experience the Starlord and other levels. The first step we have studied. Step 2, what is that? Sun signification. Sun signification for the event of marriage, if you take 4, 1, 5, 9 and 7th cuspal sublord. Though it is CL is 4, but OCC, CST, CSL all very good house grouping. So CST, Starlord planet, is favorable key planet. It is mixed planet. This is favorable planet. Starlord is favorable. Now, what we have to do? We have to do the combined study of planet and the Starlord. Whether the planets favorable or further supported or unfavorable or further supported. Now here it is mixed with the 7th primary house. That 7th house is further supported by 1, 5, 9 and 7th cuspal sublord. Unfavorable houses 12, 12, 10. That house is getting some support from the 4th house of the second planet, that is Starlord, but the grouping is that unfavorable strength is not good at the star level. So favorable strength of the planet is further supported. I hope you have understood. The same way you can see that Jupiter in the first step, It has got 8th Lord, 11th Lord occupying 5th house, 8 and 12 cuspal sublord. This is also a mixed significator, wherein 8th Lord and 8 and 12 sublord. And 11th Lord occupying 5th house. Favorable grouping also there from the 11th house in CL, and from the 8th house in CL, it is 8 and 12 cuspal sublord also. It is having both favorable and unfavorable grouping. But you can see the step number 2, sun, same sun, 4, 1, 5, 9, and 7. This sun is supporting to the 11th house and 5th house of the planet, and these 8 and 8 and 12 houses are not strongly supported by the Starlord planet. So that planet is mixed and Starlord is favorable. So favorable strength are supported, increased by the Starlord. I hope you have understood the combined level study. Next one, let us take the Starlord of the Starlord. We have studied the Starlord planet in the step number 2. In the step number 2, we have got one more level called Starlord of the Starlord. What is the role of the Starlord of the Starlord? As we are aware, the Starlord of the Starlord significations will be a supportive level to the Starlord, whether it can increase the strength of the Starlord or decrease the strength of the Starlord. So you can see same way as we did for the step number 1, studying the self-signification of the Starlord or the Starlord as followed for the first planet and second planet also. That the Starlord planet also under the step number 1. Now, further studying the self-signification, we can also find whether that Starlord or the Starlord planet is favorable or unfavorable or mixed for an event. So that way we are studying the Starlord or the Starlord planet's self-significations. Now, once we studied the Starlord or the Starlord self-signification, we have to do the Starlord and Starlord's combined study. How, for example, you check for the Mars planet, Starlord is Sun. Starlord of the Starlord is Moon. Check the self-signification of the Moon, 3111. It is favorable for the marriage. Second planet Rahu is having mixed significations. So, but still it is, the first planet is favorable, along with it some supportive houses by the second planet. Now, this favorable Moon, how it is giving support to the Starlord, that we have to check from the combined study from Starlord and Starlord of the Starlord. It means Starlord is favorable. Whether Starlord's favorable or further supported by the Starlord of the Starlord or not. Yes, it is supported by the Starlord of the Starlord, which is also favorable despite some weakness. Here you can see the Jupiter Starlord is Sun. This is favorable. And the Starlord of the Starlord is also favorable. It means the Starlord of the Starlord is supporting to the Starlord. So Starlord and Starlord combined study the same way. We have to follow the rules discussed under combined level study. Find the Starlord and Starlord of the Starlord are favorable house grouping or unfavorable house grouping. In this case, they are forming favorable house grouping. For example, you take this example. For example, you take Moon. Moon planet, source planet, first planet is favorable along with some weakness. Second step, if you take Starlord, Starlord is having mixed 7, 12, 12, and 10 on the unfavorable side, on the higher side. Now, Starlord or the Starlord, it is having 4, 1, 5, 9, and 7. It means the Starlord is unfavorable. Favorable and Starlord of the planet is unfavorable or mixed, we can say. The favorable strength is not strongly supported by the Starlord, though 7th house is present, but these favorable houses are getting reduced by the Starlord. So that way the planet and Starlord's combined study, favorable strength is reduced. Now, Starlord and Starlord of the Starlord, unfavorable significations of the planet, that is Starlord planet, is not further reduced by the unfavorable houses. Rather, unfavorable strength is reduced by the Starlord of the Starlord. It means Starlord and Starlord of the Starlord are they are not actually forming favorable grouping, but unfavorable houses of the Starlord is getting reduced by the favorable grouping of the Starlord of the Starlord. It means what? The Starlord is increasing the strength of the Starlord, seventh house, and decreasing the unfavorable grouping of the Starlord. So it means what? The Starlord and Starlord of the Starlord, when we studying combinedly, the Starlord's favorable strength are further reduced or increased by the Starlord of the Starlord. That way we can identify. So that way, when we are studying, first we have to check the planet, step number 1, planet Starlord, step number 2. Then we have to study planet and Starlord, whether the planet's favorable house grouping, this very good favorable house grouping Saturn, it is increased or decreased by the Starlord Sun. Yes, Starlord Sun is also favorable. Then we have to see whether they are all forming favorable grouping, favorable houses present, and Starlord is also favorable houses. It is increasing the intensity of the favorable houses or not, as we discussed in the part number 1 under lesson 8. We can see the combined level rules. We can identify that rules that Starlight is increasing the strength of the favorable or just giving only favorable support. We can check. Now the step number 2, within that, Starlord of the Starlord also favorable. So now check the Starlord and Starlord of the Starlord's combined study. It means that Starlord is also further supported by the Starlord of the Starlord. So the planet is supported by the Starlord. Starlord is further supported by the Starlord of the Starlord. So that favorable strength of the planet is increased at all levels. Though that there are some obstacles through the second planet, that intensity is going to be comparatively lesser. In this case of Jupiter, favorable strength 11 and 5 is further supported by the Starlord and also Starlord of the Starlord. That is further supported. That 8th Lord and 8 and 12 of the planet is reduced by the Starlord. That Starlord's favorable strength is further supported by the Starlord of the Starlord. So this is the combined level planet and Starlord and Starlord and Starlord of the Starlord combined level. So sometime what will happen? Suppose moon in the star of this favorable strength is reduced by the Starlord, but that look at the Starlord of the Starlord is favorable. So unfavorable strength of the Starlord is reduced by the Starlord of the Starlord. So that way the planet is losing its signification in the star level, but that is not being further supported by the Starlord of the Starlord. So unfavorable strength is getting reduced. Sometime what will happen? Suppose the Starlord of the Starlord planet also having some unfavorable houses. What will happen? The planet is favorable. Starlord is reducing the signification of the planet. So planet and Starlord signification is not good. Now that Starlord also, when it is unfavorable, the Starlord and Starlord of the Starlord combined level, both will be unfavorable. So that is going to make more unfavorable. So the planet favorable signification will not be supported by the Starlord. Further, it will not be supported by the Starlord or the Starlord. It is going to be more unfavorable to the Starlord and Starlord or the Starlord. That way, we have to study each planet's second. We are checking the Starlord signification and Starlord of the signification and the combined level planet and Starlord and Starlord and the Starlord of the Starlord. That way, when we study what planet is signifying in self, that is being further supported by the Starlord and further supported by the Starlord of the Starlord. So that way we have to check whether each level is supporting to each other by way of combined study. In this combined study, if they are forming good house grouping, as we discussed in the combined level study rules, if they are forming good grouping chain, favorable house grouping or unfavorable grouping, the intensity of that, the strength will be present. We will see in the next part number 4, explanations on the step number 3 and also step number 4 in method of analysis. Studying the sublord and the starlord of the sublord, and also combined study of all the levels. Thank you.